All right, we're here with Marco Perazzo. Is that how you say your name? Your last name?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, you're for those of you that don't know him, he is a owner of New Jersey Martial Arts,
Yep.
and he's an instructor. He's also okay. I'm going too far with my head, but you're also a host slash co-host. You guys always make me laugh with that of the Ninja Rob podcast,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
which
Well,
I would listen to on a weekly basis.
yes, I am one of the. I'm the main co-host.
Yeah, the main co-host, uh, and you guys do a really awesome job at it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, um, I think I covered all your titles. You're an instructor, of course, at your school.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, and you are a family man. You're a father,
Father of three. Yeah.
father of three. I'm a father of one technically, but father of three. Like whenever they come over and we spend time together.
Nice.
So yeah, I don't have the full time experience like you do, but I get the idea somewhat of what it takes to deal with three kids in
Yeah.
one
Man,
house.
just kids are. People ask me about like what's the difference between one and two and three, and I go one is like none when you have two. I said three is like not having any because then they just entertain each other.
Oh yeah, once they get old enough.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I'm sorting that now. I have a 10-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old here who drives me nuts. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Mine are 10, 7, and 4.
oh nice. So
Yeah.
they pretty much entertain each other at that
For
point.
the most part, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. When they're
Yeah.
not fighting each other.
You got what is it? What genders are they?
So oldest and youngest are boys, and my middle is a girl.
Cool. Yeah, I
Yeah.
have my oldest is a girl, my middle is a boy, and my youngest is a girl.
Okay.
So it's kind of a, you know, mix up, but it's still
Yeah,
fun
yeah.
how they all do it. My oldest teaches me what I'm going to be dealing with my youngest. My
Yes.
my middle teaches me what I'm again teaching me what my youngest is going to put up what I'm going to have to put up with, but he's a boy, so it's different. Although she acts like him in a way, like it's weird how they connect with each other, and she takes up everything he does. Like my son, he does flips, and you know what boys do? They're rough and they're crazy, and well, usually they're the ones doing stuff that hurt themselves.
Right.
And my daughter is that she takes everything from him. She does flips on the freaking couch, and I have to stop her because she'll
Yeah.
jump off
My
the
my
couch.
my daughter's, I guess, quote unquote tomboyish in being physical,
Yeah,
but she's girly about like getting dressed. She likes wearing pink and like that kind of stuff. And we try to raise her that she's like, somebody told me that toy's for only for boys. And I go, if you want to play with dinosaurs, play with dinosaurs. Like
yeah.
that's not, yeah, whatever you want to play with. So
Exactly. Like
yeah.
I tell my son because he has Spider-Man toys, Ninja Turtles, and all that, and we let him play with anything. We don't care about the gender specific toys, but he usually wants to tell my youngest Arya not to play with his Spider-Man toy because it's for boys, and I'll have to fix it up for him. Like no, she can play because she loves Spider-Man just like him, and it's just interesting how they all like
Right.
pick up these things. But you teach your kids because you're an instructor too, so you're able to teach your kids jujitsu. Do they all learn jujitsu?
No. So, no, not all of them do,
Okay.
but there's some reasons for that. My middle daughter does. So I should my daughter does. My boys have autism.
Oh,
So we're
okay.
dealing with some things with them that we have to make sure that, like there's bigger fish to fry at this point. My youngest might be able to take class. We're not sure just yet. My oldest, we're going to probably start doing like one-to-one private lessons with him, me and him to teach him some stuff. But that right now the group setting wouldn't be right for him.
Oh, okay. What age do you recommend kids to start jujitsu? Because I try to get my daughter, my oldest, and she did. She took like a couple classes at Balance Studios for a month. Like every Saturday, every Sunday, I took her to the women's jujitsu class.
Okay.
But I've noticed she didn't like it anymore because the one girl that was her age didn't. She wasn't there anymore, so she stopped having an interest in it because of that.
So as a kind of like as an instructor and a school owner, right? So for me, I I tell parents for what we do, usually it starts best at around 5 years old.
Yeah.
we do we've had some 4-year-olds come in. The 4-year-olds are on a like case by case basis,
Right.
but the 5-year-olds seem to be just a little bit kind of a little more aware, and they could do it. And jiu-jitsu is complicated for an adult. So imagine trying to teach it to a child. And in the beginning, like I've seen some 4-year-olds come in and they're like, wow, I was like, this kid moves around like an 8 or a 9-year-old. And there's a big, as kids get older, there's a big difference in what their capacity, what they can do. So,
Right. Yeah, I'm always trying to figure out when to start my son because when he was younger, me and him used to just play spar. I bought him gloves, I bought him everything like just to mess around with him. And
okay.
he loves training with me, like MMA stuff. He likes it when I ground a pound or he grounds a pound on me, and it's
Right.
it's just fun and games until I'm trying to find the right moment for him to go to class and learn. But I don't know yet. So yeah, sounds like 5 is good though.
I think so.
Reasonable.
Yeah. But I also think, like since you're a martial artist and I'm a martial artist, we got to be careful of like how we introduce it to our kids.
Yeah.
Right. Cause I'm, I don't care if my daughter becomes the next whoever top female MMA fighter. That's like, it's not my goal for her, right? Or for my boys or for any of the students that I have. My goal is that it becomes like a lifetime pursuit and something that they can lean on to kind of be able to deal with what we're dealing with now, quarantines, COVIDs, like, like the daily stresses of life. And what I did to get my daughter to want to learn jujitsu was at any time she'd ask for a treat, I go, okay, come over here. Let's do some jujitsu. I was like, all right, you can't get whatever it is you want until we go through some basic self-defense, right? Or we do this or we do that. And she was like maybe 3 years old at the time. So it would be 2 minutes, of headlock escape or somebody grabs you around the neck and what to do so that she starts seeing, okay, well, this is something that if I do it, I get some good stuff out of it. Right. So
Right.
I do some moves and then I get a marshmallow. I do some moves and I'm able to, get the whatever it is that I want. And then from there it was real easy to transfer her. She started off at Balance Studios as well. I didn't have a kids program, and I reached out to Phil and Rick, my instructors, and I go, hey, I think my daughter's about ready to come take class. And she was going, I think she was going twice a week. I forget what days she was going. And she seemed to really like it. And she liked, training with other kids and learning the moves and the warm-ups and all that stuff. And then I saw how much she liked it. And I decided to start a kids program at my school. And it's been great.
It's awesome, man. Yeah, that's you just said something. I had to write that down because I'm like that. I could do that with Andrew, my son. Um, you said give him a treat so that they can work on one thing. Because the way I do it is I just naturally play. He wants to play whenever Daddy, I want to fight. Like he wants to play fight. So I'll just all right,
Right.
come on. So I'll let him scrap it out with me and just have fun for a little bit.
Right.
Recently, my wife wanted to get those soccer boppers. And we've been doing
Okay.
that thing. Yeah. You know those bouncy balls you sit on?
Yes. Yeah. The ones with
Yeah.
the handle on it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we bought that a few weeks ago, and then the soccer boppers after. And then I forget who thought of the idea, but we came up with this little game of sit on the soccer bopper. I mean, sit on the bouncy ball, and then use soccer boppers to like try to punch the person off the bouncy ball. It's a little game that we've just created out of that. But,
Yeah, I like that. I think that's, like anytime. So I have a lot of experience with getting my boys to learn stuff and everything that when you're dealing with kids that might, and like my kids have a developmental delay. So they're always trying to teach them through play. Right.
Mhm.
So if you can get a kid to learn through play, then he doesn't even realize he's learning.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's great. Especially if he wants to do it, man, make sure that you're jumping on top of those opportunities. But also I think it's important that he realizes that it's a little bit of work too. It's
Right.
not always just play. It's like, okay, well, I want this. Well then, okay, man, show me your combo, show me your sprawling, show me your shots, do something to earn it. Because look, well, you're a young guy. What are you, like 27?
I'm close. I'm 31.
Okay,
I'm
so
still
but
young.
you're
Yeah.
young, man,
Yeah.
but right? You have a family, like nobody hands you anything,
Hmm.
right? And if we can start teaching our kids that I'm going to have to work for everything that I have. And I might still be really good, but I still have to work for it. Like if we could instill that in them at an early age, then let's instill it in them.
Right. Sorry, I'm just focused on the
Yeah.
lighting here.
Is that a sock? Is that a sock on your?
It's a sock. I started off doing it as just being ghetto because I didn't have what do you call it, to block the P's basically.
Pop
The
filter.
pop filter. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just gonna put a sock because I don't feel like I have to pay for it and wait to record. So it just became the thing. You know what? Let me just put it and keep it there. Now it's my thing. Kevin Ross. I interviewed him maybe April something, and he was the first person to notice that I have a sock. Maybe everyone else noticed it, but everyone was kind enough. Not kind, but they didn't.
Yeah, they don't want to call you out on.
Yeah. I don't give a fuck, but it's just Kevin Ross mentioned it, and I was like, yeah, it's a sock. Like, and then he said,
that name Kevin Ross sounds super familiar. I'm not sure. Is he the Muay Thai guy?
Yeah, he's a Muay Thai fighter.
Okay.
What do you call it? He told me to put googly eyes on it, and I was like, it would probably distract the people from watching. Like they'll keep looking at the googly eyes. But it would work for my other podcast with my wife because it's a comedy podcast. But anyway, yeah, it's a sock. I'm ghetto, and I kept it there. I'm like, fuck it, whatever. I'm not gonna
why
change
not?
it.
Right?
And it works too. Yeah. I was gonna ask you because I lack perspective with autism and autistic kids. I always look it up and because I always want to know the difference between mentally speaking how autistic kids are, and I know a little bit of Down syndrome. I used to live with my uncle. I was in the basement when I used to live at my mom's house, and he's slow. He's a slow learner.
Okay.
So he the way he speaks is slow. So he can't. Not a lot of people can understand him.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll repeat stuff, or he's like a kid basically. He's like an 8-year-old in an adult man's body.
Right.
But he's still smart. Like he'll be slick. Like he'll sneak into your room. Like he used to sneak into my room and take my beers out of my refrigerator. And I used to catch him. Like, will he really? Oh, I don't do it. Like he used to just like try to act like he's innocent.
Right.
But anyway, so that's my experience with. I don't know if it's mentally challenged. I just lack the terminology. Yeah. But I was curious because I when I hear autism, I'm wonder because I ran into other adults who had autistic kids, and I've experienced it a little bit. How some of them are different, some of them are like energetic, and some of them don't have control over what they're doing. You have to like, for instance, my one family reunion I have, my Rodriguez side, they had an autistic kid, I believe, and it was a dispute that happened. It was a whole big thing. Long story short, though, I was just like, why bring him over to a family reunion when there's full of people, and if he doesn't like a lot of people? So supposedly he didn't like, it was too many people, and he got nervous, and then he spazzed out. So I was just like, why would you put your child through that? And I don't know shit about that. But
yeah. So there's a reason why you would, right? So whoever brought him, it's because that's what you do. You go to family outings, right? Like you don't allow, to the best of your ability, the issue to dictate if you go or not. Because if they don't bring that, if they don't bring the child, I don't know how old the kid was, but if they don't bring this person to the family reunion, then they don't get to go to the family reunion either.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a part of it. And also if it's a family reunion, it should be a safe space, and everyone should be understanding of the fact that, hey, you know what, this person has some things that make it difficult for them to either interact, or they get overstimulated or what have you. But also it's a good learning experience for that child to what they would call neurotypical children or people doing, right? Because everything that you and I do, it just didn't come naturally. We've seen other people do, and we're like, okay, that's the right thing to do. It's even like when you're in a jiu-jitsu class and you don't know what to do. What's the first thing you do? You look at the group next to you and you're like, all right, well, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Right. And then, okay, that I should be doing that. That's the same thing for kids with autism or without. Right. So there's another reason why you would want to have a person with autism in a safe group setting, talking or being around people, so that they can, if they can pick up one little thing that would be helpful in their later life, then, why shouldn't they be there?
So what makes a child autistic? Again, I'm this is why William knows nothing, but I looked this up and then I forget. I completely forget. What is autism? Like, if you could
So
explain it to me.
autism, it's a spectrum disorder, right? So there's not one thing that defines a person or a child that has autism, right? So there's many factors. So and I forget how many there is, but let's just use a round number. If there's 10 things that need that that are on the list, the child needs to have 5 of them to be considered autistic, right? So they don't have to all be the same 5. Your 5 could be different from my 5. So what they say is that when you've met one person with autism, you've truly only met one person with autism, because nobody, much like you and I are different, are
Yeah.
completely different, right? My son, my oldest son and my youngest son, it expresses much differently for them.
Okay. So again, I want to be. I just want to make sure my mind is clear with autism. So it's
Yeah.
just
Mm-hmm.
mentally speaking, what is going on in their brain that's different from you and I, if that makes sense.
Right. So it would depend on the person,
Okay.
right?
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah,
let's
yeah, yeah.
just say so some people are within, like there are some people that have autism and they don't even know they have it,
Oh, okay.
right? It gets diagnosed for them later in life. And then there's
Oh.
some people that you see them right away and okay, you know what? This person has very, one of the common things is they're very regimented, right? Like, so if they wake up at 7, they eat the same thing, they put on the same clothes, or they do everything in a very set pattern, things need to be orderly. So that's from like an outside looking in perspective.
Hmm.
There's other things. There's things called stimming that people with autism can do. And stimming, you'll see them. Some people with autism will do hand flapping, where they need the sensory input, right? So they need to see their hand moving because it does something to regulate their nervous system.
Hmm.
Right? So their nervous
Got it.
system, your nervous system is wired properly, right? Somebody with autism, their nervous system is wired properly for them, but for them to calm down, they can't just like, all right, sit down, relax, take a couple deep breaths. They need to
Yeah.
do something like a jump around or flap
Uh,
their eyes, that kind of thing. So
got it.
but really, if you've met a person with autism, they're very unique to the same person that would be in their class.
Yeah, I got it. That's actually good to know because I just thought about my mom. She is a I forget what kind of, she's a homemaid or something like that, and she takes
Okay.
care of 2 kids, and I think they're autistic if I'm not mistaken. But one so one incident was uh, the one kid, the older kid, he was probably like 13, 14. He was kind of spazzing out because he wanted to touch my wife's legs. And so you mentioned that, and it makes me think, oh, so for him to feel comfortable, because he was like, he was kind of like panicking and screaming a little bit, and
Right.
he kept pointing at my wife, and I'm like, what is he doing? It's interesting. I'm like, okay, but he wanted to touch my wife's legs apparently because my wife was wearing, a skirt, and it was at a Thanksgiving dinner, and I didn't know about that. I didn't think of anything of that. My until the mother told my mom, and my mom told me that he just wanted to touch my wife's legs. I was like, that's interesting. Like the way the brain works with kids that are,
Right.
or with humans that have a different chemical balance in their brain. Or whatever.
Right.
I lack terminology and all that. I don't know. It just fascinates me. I'm just curious about that because I don't. When I see an autistic kid, I'm like curious about it because I know how consciousness works now a little bit. I'm into that, so I'm just always fascinated by the way minds work. Of course, I make fun of the stupid people in terms of humans that that are out here complaining about stuff that, you know what I mean. Like I can't explain it, but there's a vast majority of human beings that are okay. They're normal for the most part,
Yes.
but they make things harder for themselves in their mind because the way
Right.
consciousness works, what you see becomes your reality type of shit.
Yeah, I think Tim Carpenter has a line. It's like we don't see we we what is it? We don't see what we see. We see what we are, or something. But
So
whatever.
I heard him mention it a couple of times in the
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's true. But going back to this young man that wanted to touch your wife's legs, right? So one of the things that, so you're like kind of two camps of parents, or maybe more than two camps of parents, that they're like, well, he only wants to touch your legs, right? And that's
Mhm.
great that she understands that that's something that would maybe help this child regulate. but in what we would consider polite society, we just don't go around touching each other's legs.
Right, right,
Right.
right.
And it's something that very early on that you need to start setting boundaries that and expectations with any child, right? That, hey, this is not appropriate, regardless of autism, special needs, whatever. Like, you just can't go around touching people's legs. It's
Right.
not right. And you have, so where we fall on the more kind of like strict side, as you would want to call it, we're like, look, my son has to say please and thank you. He's got to say goodbye. He's not like, he doesn't get away with anything because he has autism, right? So
Okay.
we understand that he needs some latitude because he has autism, but he's not allowed to be rude. He's got to make his bed. He's got to, like, to the best of his innate abilities, right? I can't ask him to do more than he's capable of, but I got to make sure that I make him capable,
Right,
right?
right.
So there's a lot of parents that they're woe is me, and they're like, oh man, it's my life is so tough because my child has this thing, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, no, your life is fine because you're not dealing with what your child is dealing with, right? But
Mm-hmm.
you're only going to make your child's life worse if you allow them to get away with things that, if you had what we would call a neurotypical child, a child doesn't have any kind of special needs, uh, you my kids get it's the same expectation, right? Like my daughters and my daughter and my sons, like, you got to say please, hello, thank you, make your bed, do your homework. Like, there's no, I don't care you have autism. I don't care that your brothers have autism. You still have, responsibilities and things to do. And my wife and I do not fall in the camp. Like, I think you're connected with us on, or at least with me on Instagram. I don't know if we're connected on Facebook or not, but I'll never complain about my kids. I'll never say, oh man, it sucks being this, or I had the worst experience because of autism, or F autism. Like, you know what, man, grow up, grow a set of balls, stand up, deal with it, and be the best parent you could be. Because something I learned early on with this is that my job is just like yours. My kid having autism or not, it my job is to make sure that my child can survive this world when I'm dead and buried.
Right,
Right.
right.
So your job is to do that. My job is to do that. Now, my job might be a little bit more difficult because of what my boys have going on, but the job is still the job.
Right. Amen, man. It's like I don't understand that spectrum of autism, so I don't
Mhm.
I'm always curious about how parents deal with it. I didn't know, like you just cleared everything up for me, like how I see these parents out there. You just said woe is me. I've seen parents that said woe is me, and they complain that their kids they have autism, or they'll make excuses about their kids and say, "Oh, my child has autism, so you need to make sure you tend to my child." You know what I mean? You need to like with the leg touching thing. The person didn't say anything wrong to my wife, but I'm just thinking of these other parents. They would say, "You need to let my son touch your wife's legs because he's freaking out." Stuff like that. They would say something like
Yeah,
that,
no,
you know?
that's nonsense. Yeah, like,
Yeah,
that kid needs to. So then that's a point where you take the kid out of that situation,
right. Because
right? And
then,
just like, okay,
yeah, I would just personally, if that was the case, I'd be like, you know what? I'm just gonna take myself and my wife and my kids out of this situation because this is
right.
crazy. I don't want to deal with this. Because you're gonna let a child touch an adult on her leg inappropriately. Like, what? I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you
Not
get what
not
I'm going. Get my
inappropriately,
point.
but
Yeah,
it's not the right thing to
it's
do,
not the right
right?
thing to do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. Touching someone in general when they don't want to be touched is my
Right.
point.
And see, but a lot of these parents that, or the woe is me, or the parents that complain. And don't get me wrong, man, like, I'm not saying it's easy,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
understand like I can understand why they complain. I think, like, you and I both have an outlet physically
Mhm.
that transcends
True.
just physical,
Right.
right? And most human adults haven't been blessed, right? And I'm not religious by any stretch of the imagination.
I know what you mean though. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're not blessed to be around the type of people that we get to be around, right? And to do the types of things that we get to do, to hit that reset button. Every time I train, I hit a mental reset button,
Right.
right? So it allows me to come back to dealing with whatever I need to deal with. Is it COVID-19? Is it the quarantine? Is it my business? Is it dealing with autism? Is it dealing with schoolwork? Is it dealing with whatever? But training has only benefited me. And that's what I tell people all the time. I go, the greatest benefit that you get from doing martial arts or anything that you can kind of either wipe your mind clean or fill it with one thing. Those are the two states that you usually are in when things are going well, when you're training martial arts. Either it's filled with one or it's blank of everything. And if you can get into that state, then when you come back home or when you go back to the office or when you get that letter from the IRS or you didn't get your Trump check or whatever, it's much easier to deal with.
Right. You talk about resetting, and it makes me think of everything that I do now that we can't train. As far as train at Balance, I can't train at Balance. You can't train at your gym, but we have to train at home so that we have to make up for the lack of training that we're getting. Because I got so accustomed to training on weekends at Balance. I used to train, just get it, typical Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai classes, and then sparring on Saturday, and then sparring both Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu on Sunday. It was the perfect element. I mean, you know the word, perfect escape for me to let go of everything that's inside of me as a man or as a human being in general. Like, I don't know if I lack the science on this, but I just feel like men, we, based on our ancestry and all that, we have more of a aggression that we have to let out. And that's why I think Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu is perfect for us, because we can, strangle each other or, get each other, test each other in Muay Thai for us young guys anyway, that we can still go at it. Actually, older guys too, because there's older guys that still scrap.
Yeah. I mean, it all depends on what level you you can.
Because we're not sparring hard, first of all, in Muay Thai, but you get my point. That when you spar in Jiu-Jitsu or spar in Muay Thai, or when you train in general with these two specific martial arts, I only say that from experience, you let go of a lot of things, man. I've noticed recently, my temper has just been like hard to maintain, because I have to meditate every day.
Right.
So that's my escape. That's my way of maintaining my chemical balance of my temperament and all the issues that I have. So I meditate, and that's the only thing I have now, besides training on the bag downstairs and doing push-ups. I can't do as much as I used to because my shoulder, blah, blah. But I try to do something so that I can punish myself, so to speak, so that I can let go of that stuff that's inside.
Well, right. And just think about, even though we try to be as safe as possible when we're training, right, it's still a very dangerous endeavor when you step into a jiu-jitsu school or when you start doing Muay Thai.
Right.
Right. It's dangerous. And that's one of the things that's most attractive about it. Right. Because just think of how many people, your next door neighbors, just step through life, go to work, come home, sit on the couch, and don't get to experience the things that you and I get to experience with the people that we get to experience it with, but also what it does for us personally. Right. Like I'm for me, anytime I get news that I would be like, oh man, this would crack another person, I'm able to gather myself. I'm able to kind of just be like, all right, how do I approach this? How am I going to use my martial arts mind to solve this problem? And if I can't solve this problem, how am I using my martial arts mind to approach this problem so that it doesn't become bigger than it really is?
Right. I definitely learned that a lot when I started martial arts 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I already forgot. I'm losing track because of COVID, honestly.
So you've only been so I've been training for, I think, whenever UFC #1 started. So damn. That was like 1993.
Okay.
I think, or 94. So that was 27 years ago.
Wow. You definitely
I've been
get that
training
title, O-head.
more than half my life.
Right.
Yes. Yes. 100%. Yes.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I just started training since I was 29. So I believe I'm losing track, but it's been about 2 years and then some with my training at Balance. I've heard about, it's funny because I talked about this before on this podcast, that I've heard about Jiu-Jitsu. I never heard about Muay Thai, never in my life. I've watched films about it on back. I
Okay.
forget. Yeah,
Yeah.
on back.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of films that has Muay Thai. I didn't even know what Muay Thai was though, but I've heard of Jiu-Jitsu, and recently I just discovered that The Matrix references Jiu-Jitsu. Neo
Yes.
when he learns his
When
first martial
he's
art.
getting jujitsu, when he's getting moves uploaded into him.
Yeah, his first martial art was Jiu-Jitsu. I did not know that. I thought it was always
Yeah.
I know Kung Fu, but it was I know Jiu-Jitsu. I was like, yo, I was spazzed out because I
Yeah.
had no idea. It's one of my favorite films, so I freaked out about it. But yeah, I didn't know. It's always like Jiu-Jitsu has always been around my whole life, but I didn't know what it was. And I bought. Remember my first time being introduced to UFC was this video game for PS2, the UFC game. It was the first UFC game, I think, and it came out for PS2. I didn't know what it was, the grappling aspect. So my mentality as a kid, I was probably 13, 14, was that it was gay. I grew up in the hood. I grew up in the hood, and in the hood mentality is if you're
Yo,
touching
that shit is gay, son.
yeah, that shit is gay, dog. Fuck that shit. I ain't touching no other man.
Yeah.
The balls in your face, the
Y'all
ass
doing that
shot.
wrestling shit.
Yeah. So it's funny because I made fun of wrestling too, pro wrestling, not pro wrestling, the actual sport of wrestling.
Yeah, like high school and collegiate wrestling.
But I loved pro wrestling, WWF, WWE, whatever. So that's how I grew up. My mentality when I was young was being around other kids that had that shit is gay, son, whatever.
Right.
So I wouldn't have been into jiu-jitsu when I was a kid, but it would have been awesome for me to do that because I've got bullied. I've got what you get out of jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai is all like everything that I've like fucking looked for, man. We can go down the list. You can come up with a whole list of things with your experience of the benefits of martial arts with these two specific things that I'm speaking of. There's others, I'm pretty sure martial arts that you get similar experiences, but you and I know that jiu-jitsu is fucking complicated as hell. And
yes.
complex.
But they're all complicated, right?
Yeah,
like so.
True.
Don't look,
I know. Yeah.
Unfortunately, like as jiu-jitsu people and as somebody's like Muay Thai, right? And I do both. And I think they're both great. Like I will always, and I'll be honest, like if I had to pick one, I'm always going to pick jiu-jitsu. But if I get to pick two, I'm always picking jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai, right? Mm-hmm. Like those would be the two that I would always learn. But there's something that you can get from all the arts as long as you kind of understand. And, there's some tough dudes out there that do stuff that we think is corny, right? Mm. Like there's guys like George St. Pierre started off doing karate, okay. Yeah. He's getting into the UFC Hall of Fame. So don't downplay, what other martial arts can do just because maybe they're not as effective in the cage. Because it's not always like, I don't know. Have you ever fought professionally?
Not yet. I've been trying to, but yeah.
Right. So I've never fought professionally, right? Mm. I've cornered guys. I've made it all the way to the UFC. But honestly, right, the biggest thing that I get out of teaching martial arts, right? So as a coach, I've cornered at the UFC, which is the pinnacle, right? Like cornering at the UFC, it doesn't get any higher than that.
Wow.
But just getting to love what we do is way more fulfilling.
Right. Sorry, I'm getting delayed. I don't know if. All right, there you go. Yeah, you're breaking up and it's delayed.
I hear you straight away.
All right, cool. I'm hearing something in the background.
Sorry.
Like, what is that noise too? There's like a lot of distractions in the background. Yeah, I wasn't trying to downplay. I'm sorry. So, that was my mistake. I've learned this myself.
No, I'm not saying. I'm just saying like
you're making it clear.
But in general,
right?
Like people talk shit on other martial arts, and like that's cool if that's how you got to sell. Like karate sucks. No, it doesn't. Aikido sucks. No, it doesn't. Right? It's just not what we do. Right? Like when people ask me, like, well, what do you think of Aikido? I go, I think it's cool. I don't know anything about it. I've never done it. Right? I can only talk about the things that I've done and the things that I know about. Yeah. Right? Like if somebody's going to tell you, well, karate sucks. Well, are you sure? Because you don't know. You're not a karate expert. Right? Maybe what we can say is that what the Gracies set out to accomplish, they did. Right. When they wanted to prove that in one-to-one combat, that jiu-jitsu, when done correctly, the way they were doing it, would defeat a striking martial art, they were right. They
Right.
proved it time and time again. That argument we can make. I
Right.
don't subscribe to this whole idea that all these other martial arts are bullshit and they suck, right? Because they don't. Because if you're a karate guy and you add jujitsu, whoa, you're a dangerous dude.
Right.
You know. So
Yeah, it all depends on the the efforts of the individual, what they're learning in that specific martial art. How much are they learning their technique? How effective it is in comparison to the person that if they're going against someone to defend themselves.
right.
Uh,
And jujitsu, unfortunately, is going down a very similar path. Like, you know, because back in the day, in the 60s and 70s, you walked into a karate school, you were walking in the fight. Like, it
right.
wasn't a kid, you know, they weren't teaching kids, they were teaching adults. Like, you and I would have gone to, if we didn't go box, we would have gone to karate,
Right.
right? You know, like, and we would have been in there kicking each other and punching each other and you know, fighting for real. But what happened is karate started to become a business,
Right.
and they realized that kicking each other in the face might not be good for money.
Right.
So you see the same thing happening in jiu-jitsu now. Jiu-jitsu used to be, and I don't want to be like, oh, it used to be better back in the day. It's just different now, right? Back in the day, jiu-jitsu was so that we could fight people from other martial arts or street fight. Nowadays, jiu-jitsu, most jiu-jitsu classes are so that you can beat other jiu-jitsu people. So that's why when you look at a jiu-jitsu move and you know, you'll hear a lot of the old school Gracie say, well, you know, the berimbolo or this move or that move, you know, that's going to get your head stomped in a street fight. They're right. But that doesn't make the berimbolo a crap move. It just makes it a move that doesn't work in a street fight, right?
Yeah.
Or something that these guys weren't preparing for. They weren't preparing to be the best jiu-jitsu guys in the world. They were preparing to be the best martial artists in the world that practice one martial art, right?
Right.
So now when you're trying to become the best jiu-jitsu guy in the world, you got to make the moves complicated, because everybody can, you know, we could all do the basics,
Mm.
right? It's like, who can do better at the complicated moves. But
Right.
I don't want to talk too much on your podcast. I'm sorry.
No. Yo, you're good. You're perfect, man. The way you're speaking is perfect. So you don't have to worry about that. Um, what do you call it? I just wanted to ask you because you know you get into the world that I love to talk about. I love to talk about the balance of martial arts because me as a martial artist, I've been learning so much about myself and blah blah blah, and I've been learning about not dissing. You know that you're talking about, like not estimating the other aspects of martial arts. Like I train at home when I kick the bag. I use spinning roundhouse kicks. I think they're called, right? Or spinning back kicks, the one that Joe
Okay.
Rogan does.
Yes,
I use that as Taekwondo or whatever. I don't know if there's any other martial art that does that, but I
probably
know,
a ton of them, right?
yeah. So I learned from that, and that's not Muay Thai. And when I train at Balance, we learn Muay Thai, just the basic stuff. So I learned that, and then I'm like, all right, but I want to learn this too. I want to learn this, and I do things on my own. It's like I look at it as a creative endeavor. So as a martial artist, I take that word artist and I really underline that for artists. So if I want to learn how to defend myself, I take the martial principles of learning what I can do to effectively defend myself in case someone were to try to harm me or my family in the street. I could take on, not everybody, but the majority of people more confidently than I did before because I wasn't confident. I relied on my temperament to take over so that I can destroy them. And you know what I mean? In my head, I would think I would destroy
All
them.
your hood training.
Yeah, all my hood training, my my street efforts. Because growing up, I got beat up so much, and I got rolled on. You name it, I got mugged. I have a long list of things that happened to me that that I have experience in that I hated, and I took all that, and I gathered what my mom does. Oh, everyone's scared of her because she has this temper that freaks everybody the fuck out. Okay, let me do that. Let me unleash the fury. So I used to just like every time. Granted, I haven't gotten to a fight ever since I harnessed the anger temperament issue. I haven't gotten to a fight where I unleashed my temper. And I hit someone and knocked them out. That never happened after that. So because I think after 11th grade or 12th grade, no one bothered me, and all I had now is a dumb temper that would freak out in the freaking road. of snapping on
Right.
someone, cut me off. That's all I had from it. Or and
Right, but you're an
relationships.
adult now. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, yeah.
you're 31. Should you really be getting into street fights regardless of
No, no.
temper or
Yeah,
not? You know, like
right.
that's
So I had
that's ridiculous. Like if you somebody if go ahead.
no, no, no. Go ahead.
I was saying if somebody attacks you, it's one thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if your temper is pushing you into a fight as a 31-year-old man, man, you need to take a step back and, you know, make a chart of like, oh, what are the pros and cons of this? Why am I getting into street fights at 31?
Right.
Defending yourself at 31, man, I'm all for that, right? If you have to defend yourself, but also not putting yourself in a situation where you need to defend yourself
Right.
is part of self-defense, right? But
Exactly. Yeah, I'm glad you said that because that's exactly what I've learned with the process of learning martial arts, jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai. I've learned how to be more aware of my surroundings. I know what I know for the most part. I'm just a blue belt in jiu-jitsu and I'm a 2-year experience with Muay Thai in general. But I know what I know. I had two altercations that one of them I had to physically grab somebody in a Muay Thai clinch. I didn't do anything. All I did was hold him and tell him I love him because he was drunk and I was a little bit tipsy. And I just told him, let's not do this, because it was a fight between him and someone else, blah, blah, blah. But I was happy that, I'm using a Muay Thai clinch to hold him down because him and I have the same strength. We had the same height, blah, blah, blah. So I was kind of excited that I use martial art effectively and not in a way that someone else would use it to harm the person. You know what I mean?
right.
I actually held him there.
It's pronounced scrumph.
Scrumph? What is that?
Scrumph.
What is that?
When you're strong, it's pronounced scrumph.
Yeah, whatever. Scrumph. Then I use my scrumph to hold him down. So I don't know. Again, and then the other altercation was with a woman, my neighbor. Actually, they moved, thankfully. But it was over a stupid parking spot. I said a dumb thing. You don't say. All right, so little one rule of thumb. I said this before. Do not tell the person, if you live in the hood still, do not tell the person, your neighbor, that you're going to call the cops. They're going to get very angry and make more threats and make the situation more difficult for you to deal with. But anyway, I thought I was going to have to take down this big lady. She was pretty big and she was being threatening. So I didn't do anything physically to harm her, but what I did learn from jiu-jitsu, I used it there, was to keep my hands up. So the prayer hands. We learned.
I used to be a bouncer, so I know.
Yeah. Okay, so you have a lot of experience then, I'm sure. So I just kept my hands up to keep my distance. I kept telling her, look, I don't want any problems, blah, blah, blah. I just did everything that I've learned.
I don't want to lie. I wasn't really a bouncer. I was a door guy. I never really got involved with much. But anyway.
But you still saw things, experienced things.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. Man, yeah. The toughest people that you and I both know very, very rarely want to get into fights.
Right.
Like the old saying is, if you want to get into a fight, you could go to Balance Studios and you could fight every day, twice a day. Like you don't need to walk around looking for an altercation. Like it's not worth it. Tim and I just talked about it. I forget if it was on the last podcast or the one that's coming out, how many people we know that have killed people in street fights, right? Like the guy, and not the punch, but when they hit the ground, right? Yeah. Head hits the floor, they die, that kind of thing. It's like, man, like that, it's dangerous.
Right. That was your last podcast, by the way.
Oh, okay.
It was released already this week. Yeah, it's cool. You don't listen to your podcast after it release, right? You don't do that?
I do. Yeah, I do.
Okay.
But so because of the whole COVID-19 thing, we're running a week behind in case we can't make it to the studio. So I listened to that podcast like 10 or 12 days ago. And like my memory is terrible when it comes to the podcast. Like people will bring up stuff that I talked about and I go, really? What episode? I don't remember saying that,
Yeah. Yeah. Same here. I suck with memory. So, cause like when I do this podcast, I do it solo as well. Like if I'm trying to keep it consistent every week. So even if I can't get a guest to join me, I'll just fucking do it myself and just start talking about random shit. But, yeah, usually I forget I have to go back to my other episodes. Wait, did I talk about this already? Fuck. Because I don't want to repeat myself over and over again.
But if it's interesting, man, we're like, Tim and I, we don't really care, man. Like
Yeah.
and when we say like we don't care, we always want to do a good job and we want people to listen to our podcast. But
Right.
if we wind up talking about the same thing, all right, man, we talked about the same thing, whatever.
Yeah.
Like people want to listen. They haven't come, nobody's complained yet.
Yeah. I mean, you guys been consistent with changing your subjects. You guys don't. I don't see you guys repeating stuff like Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan often repeats himself a lot, but I said it because it's like whatever he does with a lot of guests, and so I look at that too. But I'm just saying in general for me, I don't want to keep telling people about my suicidal issues that I had. That's something I caught myself doing. I saw that some episodes. I'm like, why do I keep repeating it? I don't have to say that. People, there's new listeners. I get that, but
Right,
right.
here's so let me.
Go ahead.
I'm very fatherly. I like giving
Speak
advice.
your mind, bro.
I don't like taking advice, but I like giving advice.
Yeah, that's fine.
If you feel good about putting that out there, and it's genuine,
Yeah.
then put it out there.
Okay.
Right. So one of the I don't have a lot of people that I've looked up to my whole life, like other than my dad and kind of like stuff like that. But, somebody that I've always admired as an entertainer was Don Rickles. I don't know if you know who Don Rickles is, but he's a crazy, old, famous comedian.
Yeah, look him up.
There's a really and he is hilarious. Like he doesn't give, pardon my language, a fuck.
Right.
Like he makes fun of you if you're white, you're black, you're Puerto Rican. Like it doesn't matter. But there was a documentary about him maybe about 10 years ago. I think it was called Mr. Warmth or Mr. Personality, where they said that the best thing about Don is that he's a true artist. And what that means is that he always wanted his crowd to laugh, but he was never willing to compromise to make them laugh. And as long as you're not compromised, because look, bro, there's very few people out there making the money that Joe Rogan's making. So we do podcasts because we love it. We have fun and we want people to hear our voice. So I'm myself, Tim, you, if you want to talk about it's your suicidal tendencies 3 episodes in a row, go for it. Right. Because unless you're making a ton of money on your podcast and it's ruining your stats, right. Then I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, that's true. No, yeah, I guess I'm trying to learn. Another thing I take from martial arts is teaching me a lot about just understanding myself more, along with meditation. Meditation is doing that a lot, but in terms of my insecurities, I've been trying to grow out of. So we were talking about the temperament thing. I wanted to clear that up too. So my temperament, I am learning how to stop. I'm trying to manage it now to keep that shit down because I created this. I don't know if it's just a thing that occurs. It was going to happen regardless. It's because it's part of my genetics, whatever, because my mom and my family on my mom's side, they have, bad tempers. But ultimately, I'm still trying to now, again, it started from when I was trying to create this thing, this little beast. And now I'm trying to maintain the beast because now I'm an adult. I'm 31. And I'm like, dude, I don't need to be snapping at anybody in the streets to use martial arts to anybody. There's no point of that. I just explained to you the altercation I had with the neighbor. I didn't snap on her. I was trying to remain calm. She was really annoying me, but I was doing my best to keep my composure so I didn't lose my shit and then cause an issue where her boyfriend, which it's a long story with that, I thought he was going to kill me.
Okay.
Yeah, interesting shit. I think I brought it up on here before. But anyway, stuff like that, so I don't get myself killed, so to speak. I'm trying to survive so I can take care of my family. I'm trying to stay away from the bullshit out there that goes on so I keep my own shit situated. But I'm losing my train of thought. But ultimately, I've been learning from martial arts about myself in terms of insecurities, what martial arts is giving me more confidence, is giving me more awareness, on top of the things I'm trying to do, is giving me more accountability, blah, blah, blah. The list goes on with what it's doing for me, but I take what I learned from there and I use meditation as a way to analyze everything all together to come into this full circle with who I am as a person. So the podcasting thing is like another experiment because now I'm talking to people and there's any mistakes I do is just a mistake. Right. But the insecurity is going to happen, of course. So So with that suicide thing, if I bring up, my suicidal stuff, I personally don't like it when someone plays the victim or when someone constantly brings something up because they want that out there. But at the
Right.
same time, I have to understand why they're doing it or why they keep saying it. So I judge myself, I guess, whenever I say something. I'm like, why did you bring that up? Like, did you bring that up because you had a point, or were you trying to make people feel bad about yourself? So I'm just very and how you say it. I have a lot of self criticism
Right.
overall.
But check it out, right?
Yeah.
But if you were like talking about, oh well, I'm unhappy, like I've had body issues, right? Where I, like I've been dealing with not feeling good about how I look my whole life. All right, like that sucks, and and whatever. And you might help somebody if you talk about that 2 or 3 times, right? And like that kind of thing. But apparently you've had a real experience with getting into an area of suicide that not a lot of people have gotten into,
Mm,
right? And if you're able to get to one person, or if that third or fourth or fifth time that you talk about it and it helps one person, then it was worth every single time you've ever talked about it,
yeah, that's
right?
so
It's
true.
not you being kind of like self-centered about it. It's part of your process in healing, right? And if
Right.
you can pass that along to somebody else and say, hey, look, man, you're not alone in this, right? I had these thoughts and this is how I got through it, and hopefully you can get through it too. Like what, at the end of the day, it's about connecting with people that want to connect with you. People that don't want to connect with you are just going to be like, ah, fuck, the dude's talking about killing himself again, I'm moving on. It's
Right.
not
Right.
somebody you want listening anyway.
Yeah.
So
True. Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. It's like a reminder whenever I tell myself that I shouldn't be doing this podcast. Actually, I fight with myself sometimes because I'll tell myself no. I have like a few listeners that are, I don't know if they're the same, but I got like a certain count, like 10, so it shifts, and then I find myself worrying about that too much. I'm like, dude, just I have to parent myself and tell myself, just release the damn thing, let it go, and move on. Keep it going. Do you
right.
enjoy doing this? Is there a reason why you like doing this? Blah blah blah. I have to go down the list. Then it keeps me going. So yeah, everything you
So
just said
like
was true though. Yeah,
I
go ahead.
I look at like, so chasing numbers, man, you could just get caught up in the numbers,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Like 10 listeners, for like we're lucky, right? Tim owns a school, I own a school, we're somewhat in our schools. Clearly we're we're not famous, but people know who we are. Our students are going to listen. So when we started our podcast, we had, like I would post our numbers on a Facebook group that I'm part of that's about podcasts. Like, well, how did you get so many listeners like right away? I'm getting this and I'm getting that. And I go, I have no idea, dude. Like, we don't do anything special, like in the sense of like, we try to put out a good podcast. But I was in the beginning, I'm like, oh man, we got 200 listens. We got 250, we got 350, one of our episodes hit 600, and
Right.
then at a certain point, I'm like, all right, well, who cares? I would still do it if one person listened.
Right.
Like, I have a ton of them on my computer that me, Tim, and a couple of our friends did that we had a blast doing that we never released. Right? It
Right.
doesn't make them any less valuable because they were valuable to us. So
Right. That's so true. Yeah. It's uh, to go down with human behavior, we often find ourselves looking for that thing that everyone else does. So you see Joe Rogan or all these other podcasters that are successful. They're getting paid. They're making a living out of it because of something else they've done. Like most comedians have a podcast now because Joe Rogan is telling all of them to get a podcast. So they have their own separate fan base that's carrying on to that, and they're making money from that. Blah blah blah. List goes on of all this shit with what we as the smaller people, whatever you want to call it. Me as a creative person, I've always been into productive stuff, like anything media based. I used to want to be a filmmaker, and I used to make films, and then that's long story short. Now I'm here using one of my tools to record audio. Now I'm using it to fucking make podcasts because I still all these things I'm talking about on my podcast were things that I wanted to put on film so that I can make meaningful films. But because of my experiences and my lack of ambitions, and this is my luck overall at where I am now. I have kids now, so it's like my life is different. Podcasting is so much easier for me to just sit
Right.
here, set the damn mic up. I have to now I'm facing another insecurity. I'm over it now, but I face another insecurity of reaching out to people like you, even you, to talk. Hey, I don't know you. I don't, we don't know each other like that. We met each other,
Right. Yeah.
and I listened to your show, and that's as far as I know you. I don't know your personal life. We never hung out, had a beer.
Right.
So I don't, it's hard. My brain,
Oh,
is,
change this.
Hold
Still
on,
gonna
you
stay
cut.
the same.
say it again, one more time.
I said that's not changing. We're
Yeah.
still not gonna hang out, and we're still not gonna have a beer.
That's fine. I'm okay with that. I accepted that years ago when I realized how much of a weirdo
All right.
I am, and not a lot of people hang out with me in general. That's besides the point. That's a different case. I get it though.
Gotcha. Yeah.
What do you call it? What was I saying? Oh,
But
so with that,
you said you're insecurity about reaching out to people.
so yeah, that's what I'm saying. The podcasting has taught me a lot with, oh damn, I'm really insecure with reaching out to people that I want to speak to. I would like to speak to you because you have experience of running a gym. You have, now you do it. Your podcast was really led me on to knowing who you are as a person, the way you're talking,
Right.
and blah blah blah. So I had an interest in talking to you. Same with Tim. Now I'm learning more about Tim. I didn't know he was into philosophy, but before that I was interested the same way. But now that I know he's into philosophy, and you guys are showing more personality and show, I'm like, damn, I really want to talk to these guys on my show. So it's like, fuck, because everything about the show is philosophy, or is in the realm
Right.
of philosophy anyway. So that's why I'm like reaching out
So
to you
that's
guys.
interesting too, because like just think about it. You do cool shit. You wanted to make movies. You know how to do audio production. You have a podcast. Like if you were to sit down in a room full of people at an Ivy League school, you might not be able to talk to them about the shit that they know, right?
Mhm.
But you could definitely talk to them about the shit that you know.
Right.
And they would walk away and be like, oh man, yo, I met this dude, Will. He's a podcaster. He's got this, he's got that. You man, own what you're good at
Yeah.
and put it out there. Put it out front.
Yeah.
You know, like with our podcast, the one that I'm the main co-host on. Like we very rarely have guests. And that's not because that, like having guests guests are great, but we don't give a fuck. Like
Right.
the show's not built on having guests. The show's built on what Tim and I bring to it and talk about it. So if we do have a guest, and hopefully you've listened to some that have guests on it,
I did.
it's not like it's not like the show revolves around the person. The show just we introduce them into the show and they just become a part of it.
Right.
Right. Because we never wanted this to be something where it showcased who we could get on.
Right.
We wanted it to be something where we got to share what we wanted to share with people. And when I sit down anywhere I go, it's like, I heard this old story about Kanye West, and his line was, because I do cool and dope shit. And you and I both do cool and dope shit.
Right.
Podcasting, martial arts, parenting. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
that's cool and that's dope. And let people know and take that confidence when you go to ask somebody to be on your show. I reach out to people all the time, in like people that are the top of their, like the food chain in what they do. Like I reach out, I've recently gotten into Formula One racing, and I reached out to the top Formula One racing driver directly. I emailed him, got no response. I'd send him a message. I tagged him, didn't get nothing. Right. I was like, all right, cool. I get it. He's got millions of followers, like what have you. But then I reached out to one of the top American YouTubers. Right. And he's got like 60 or 70,000 followers on his YouTube channel. So for like a niche sport, it's a lot of followers. And I'm going to, at some point I'm going to have him come on our show and we're going to talk about it and all this other stuff. But if I didn't have the confidence of knowing that I do dope and cool shit and that I can get people interested in what I talk about, I would have never reached out to him,
Right. That's a perfect way to motivate yourself to, like what's it called? A mantra. So I don't know if you're into that shit. I'm not into it, but I like the mantra when you repeat something to yourself to remind you what it is about. So I like that right there. Cool and dope shit. I wrote that down so that anytime I reach out to somebody, like I want to reach out to Sam Harris. He's the top of the chart of podcasting, of course. But I'm really, first of all, I've read his books. Well, one of his books. I'm sorry. I'm reading his wife's book too. I'm reading his books and I'm into the way he speaks and what he talks about. So I want to talk about that more, but I want him on my show.
Right.
So I already reached out to Eddie Albasolo and Kevin Ross. Those are two Muay Thai fighters that I was into because they're cool. The way they perform or whatever, and the way they speak. I didn't know Eddie was gonna speak the way he spoke, but because he spoke so fucking like he was down to earth. It's like I had expectations in a way, but I didn't. I don't like to have expectation for people.
Right.
But like you're surprising me. I mean, honestly, everyone surprises me all the time. So it's just because I try not to have expectation from people. I know you from what I hear on the show, but what you bring to this table is you're teaching me stuff. I'm like, damn, dude, or you're reminding me of stuff. I was like, fuck, I didn't expect this. You know what I mean? You don't know what to expect, and that's what I love about this.
Because I do
podcasting
cool
shit.
and dope shit.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
But seriously, like, like if I'm a martial arts instructor, right?
Yeah.
And part of it is people come to me because they want something that I have, right? And part of that is this confidence that I carry. And it's not confidence in being a dick, but man, like I'm secure in who I am. I wasn't always secure in who I am.
Right.
Right. And is this a work in progress? 100%. I'm not done. Right. But I am, man, like I'm a much different person than I was a year ago, 5 years ago, 10, 15, 20, so forth and so on. So much so that my mother has no clue who I am. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like she looks at me as this person and she doesn't understand the journey that I've been on, right? Yeah. Through the martial arts, through dealing with what I had to deal with my kids, becoming a successful business owner, getting into things that I was confident, like I was getting into that, maybe I had no right getting into it, but because I was confident and I was able to sell myself, I'm able to do these things,
Yeah. You mentioned that your mom doesn't know you, and it made me think of my mom because my mom still continues to say that she knows me more than I do. If she perspective, I would just mention that. But I often tell her things that she doesn't know about me, like how much I didn't know about myself. I've always been fascinated with psychology, neuroscience. I didn't even know what neuroscience was until Sam Harris mentioned it.
Right.
But I'm into all these things because I always wanted to be a therapist when I was a kid. I always wanted to help people. I always wanted to be that person that what you just did to me earlier, the fatherly figure where you want to, give advice and all that. I love doing that to make other people see things differently than they currently do, to help them reach a different level of perspective so that they can get shit done the way they want to. Like you just told me cool and shit, because everything that we do is cool. And so if I keep that same thing and apply it to every time I reach out to people, now that's always going to be my thing. I got that from you. I'm always going to remember that. And anytime I reach out to someone, I'm going to use that one, even though I had some other thing to say. Just fucking do it. You know what I mean?
Right. So, but what I will say is this, is keep reaching out to Sam Harris or reach out to him, but don't take it personal if he doesn't. Of course. Right. But also don't let it affect the fact that you still look up to him and that you want him on the show, and that the eventuality is that, one day, if you work hard enough and you get the right breaks and you do the right thing, you'll be big enough where Sam Harris now will be noticing your email.
Right. Exactly.
And there's the thing is that you can't never, when I reach out to people and they don't reach back, I'm like, fuck him. He doesn't realize how cool and dope my shit is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And one day we
yeah.
shall.
Sorry, go ahead. My fault.
No, but I mean, that's the thing is I reached out to guys at 2016 world champion in Formula One racing, right? Like he's in Formula One. He's as big as that there could have been in 2016. And he retired that same year that he won the championship. And there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. Formula One. And if you want to get into something new right now, and I don't know if you're into traditional sports like baseball or football and all that other stuff, but
I
if you
used to
want
be.
to get into something, check out called Drive to Survive, right? And it's like a documentary on Formula One, and it really kind of takes a deep dive. But going back, like I reached out to this guy, and I'm like, man, it'd be awesome to have him on. Like, how cool is it? Because I kept thinking, from my perspective, two MMA fighters want to talk to a guy that doesn't want to know how to fight, right? He knows how to drive, right? Or so that's the cool part see for him, right?
Okay.
Where it's like, oh wow, like these guys aren't drivers, these guys aren't Formula One enthusiasts, these guys are MMA people. Why do they want to talk to me? What does a Formula One driver, what could he bring to a martial arts podcast?
Right.
Right. That's the other thing too, is like having that mental scrumph, right? To be able to package it to yourself to say, this is why he wants to be on my show, even though he doesn't know it yet.
Right. That I did question that too when you guys. I heard you mention. I was like, what? It's interesting. I mean, that's your show, of course. You're the co-main. What do you call it? The main co-host.
Main co-host,
Oh
yes.
yeah. And I questioned. I was like, a driver, like Formula One. I mean, I watched a couple of albums. I was never into it, but I'm always fascinated by the different aspects of why they do it and how fast they go and the mental aspects of it, like
Right.
what they're dealing with. Like you're going fucking fast in that shit and it's dangerous. So I'm always fascinated in that aspect. But I was like, what could they bring to the Ninja Rob podcast? So it's just a weird turn they're going. But I was like, hey, I mean, we'll see what happens. That's what I love about people like you that just you're open minded to not just stick to one little thing that you're doing. Like you guys are talking about different stuff, by the way, and it is changing it is changing things a little bit for me as a fan. It's changing things, but I still listen to you guys regardless. And because before I was learning shit from you guys, and now I'm just listening. Like I'm just listening as a fan. I
Right.
noticed that because you guys are somewhat teaching somewhat here and there, but now it's more focused on just you're talking about ice cream, Ben and Jerry shit, and it's
So
making me hungry.
So right now it's kind of tough because we
Yeah.
take our experiences as, like active martial arts training and teaching, and it bubbles over into the podcast, right? So
Yeah.
stuff that happens at the school on Tuesday, we could talk about on Saturday. But
Right.
since nothing's going on, it's tough to fabricate that, right?
Right.
And say, these are the lessons. So we've pivoted a little bit during the lockdown to being a little bit more lifestyle. But once we get back to training, it's going to be, it'll get back to,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, a
I was
little bit
just,
of everything.
I was just saying I noticed a thing that I like here. Look at me. I'm still listening to these guys talk about stuff that I initially started listening to you guys because I was attracted to the learning from it. But whatever, you guys were talking about martial arts and stuff. So, but now I'm still here. I'm still as a fan. It just gave me a little perspective of like, even if you go off track or whatever you do, it's still your show. I still want to listen to your show. I still want to tune in. What are they talking about now? I'm always curious.
Right.
Are they gonna talk about the next ice cream? I don't care. It's still, you guys are fun regardless, and it's not like a boring show. That's why I continue to listen
No,
to
I
it. So,
appreciate that. No, and we try to, like we do the show, we do it once a week. Man, it comes out. It's a ton of fun. We get good feedback, even if we didn't get good feedback.
yeah,
Right? Like we've
yeah.
done 52, well, technically 53 episodes have been recorded. Man, that's a lot of, like, we've been unbelievably consistent. An episode a week, 52 weeks in a row. Right? Like I've been on every single one of them. I think Tim has been, wasn't there for one or two. I can't remember. One time we went to Hungary and might not have been there for another one. But man, it's fun. Like when we originally started the podcast, it was part of a way of being able to connect with our students and also being able to present ourselves as subject matter experts. Right. Like, yeah, we're martial artists, so let's talk about martial arts. And now that we have a platform to talk about ice cream, TV shows, movies, what's going on, our political beliefs, why not use that? Because even though to a guy like Joe Rogan, 20,000 listens in a year wouldn't be a lot, like to me, I'm like, fuck, man, I can't believe we got 20,000 downloads in 1 year. Like
Yeah.
it's a big fucking number.
Yeah.
And I tell people me and Tim are just as famous as Joe Rogan is to the people that listen to us.
Right.
To those people that don't listen to us, they have no clue who we are.
Right.
The people that
Exactly.
do, so.
Right. Yeah. It's funny because Joe Rogan releases, I don't know what his, I used to work, when I used to work, I used to listen to at least 4 to 5 different podcasts a day because I have so much time to listen while I'm working because I fill vending machines and I'm on the road a lot. So that's, you guys carry every Tuesday, I think. You guys were
Tuesday, 10 a.m.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you guys would carry on about the portion of my day. Every time, it's funny, every time I reach my certain spot, my stop, I mean, in my day, you guys put the show out and I'm able to listen to it. All right, cool. Now I get to listen to these guys for like an hour and a half or whatever. And then it's the same time, the same stops or whatever that I listen to you guys. So it's just a familiar turf. It's funny. But Joe Rogan, I don't listen to him anymore as much because he does 3-hour shows. And I don't see myself doing something around the house for 3 hours. With you guys, I'm able to stretch, train, put laundry away, do whatever I have to do in my house so I can listen to you guys. Because I don't listen to podcasts and sit there and do nothing and just listen or watch. I like to move and get shit done productively speaking.
Right.
I like to clean the house or something. I like to do something. I can't sit there and listen because I feel like I'm wasting, not that I'm wasting time, but I feel like my physical body could do stuff while I'm listening. So it's interesting, but I forgot my point in bringing that up. I don't know. I guess I wanted to bring that up for some reason. Yeah. Anyway, what we were talking about? Your fan base. By the way, the 20,000 listens, right?
Yeah, 20,000 downloads. Yeah,
downloads. Congrats on that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
When you released that, and I was like, holy shit, that was big to me. Like, and because I got like 700 downloads on mine.
Okay.
And it's cool. It's still, I don't care about the listens at this point, but it's still cool that you got 20,000 listens, and that's interesting and to see that number.
Yeah, like and you. All perspective, right?
Yeah.
And if you were to go on, like, so I use a company called Buzzsprout that they handle the podcasting hosting for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm part of the Buzzsprout community on Facebook. And when I post my numbers, people are like, oh my God, your numbers are awesome. And then I see other people's numbers and I go, yeah, my numbers suck compared to this dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Like it's all perspective and all looking like what, if I wanted to become a millionaire, 20,000 downloads is crap. Right. But if I want to do what I'm doing, 20,000 downloads is awesome.
Yeah, that is a lot, man. Do you have any specific goals with your show, or you're just doing it because it's fun and like?
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So the goals are to continue having fun, right? Mm-hmm. Being able to connect with Tim as a friend and as like a podcasting host, and have our friendship grow deeper, and also for people to hear what we have to say, to get our message and our voice out there, excuse me, to the greater and the bigger community, so that they're hearing a voice that maybe is different than the other voices that are out there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So. You guys do have a voice too, for sure. Like I'm a listener, so you guys, I value the perspectives of both of you. What you guys, even Devin, when he's on too, I value his perspective as well, especially coming from. I don't know if you were raised in the hood. I think I heard you mention something about it, but
yeah, I'm born and raised in South Philly, so yeah. It's not like it was a middle class neighborhood, but yeah.
I just find it hilarious when you guys make fun of Tim because he's in the suburbs or whatever. He doesn't have hood experience.
So and not to not talk about Devin, but the show me and Tim are a big part of the show, but Devin is, an equal part of the show. He's just not a black belt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. That makes sense. The way you guys run the show. I like that. I liked it when you guys allowed Devin to be there, because then, even as a blue belt, I still consider myself a white belt, whatever. That always remaining white belt mentality, that thing, right, where you're always learning. So I like that he's there so that in case you guys may say something, he may be able to question something on jiu-jitsu.
Right, but like, yo, what does that mean? Or he doesn't know. Because like I said, I've been doing this since 1993, man.
Yeah.
I forget what it's like to be a beginner.
Yeah, exactly.
and he's able to bring us back to that, or just give us the perspective of somebody that's not a school owner and his perspective. And, like we wouldn't be able to do the podcast if it wasn't for him.
Yeah.
Right.
He's the
At his
one.
studio, he's our sound engineer. He's a co-host. Like if it wasn't for him, the shows, it would be what we used to do. We'd get together because I have a bunch of equipment. I have field recorders. I have a Tascam DR40, a Tascam DR60. I got a bunch of really good microphones. I have an input-output device. I have software for editing, but all that stuff is hard, man.
Yeah, it
like
is.
the nice thing about doing it at Devin's studio is that, like I said on our podcast, an hour later, I have a file. It's done, uploaded.
Sorry, you were cutting off and it stopped.
I see. Now, the nice thing about doing it at Devin's studio is that I don't have to do anything other than be creative and talk into the microphone.
Right. I had a question in regards to so the pandemic, whatever, it has like so many different names for it, but you guys are being consistent with the podcast, but it's changing things a little bit, but how is it affecting you in terms of, is it affecting you at all with the benefits of podcasting? Like you can go through a long list of why it's fun to do a podcast, but is it affecting you at all in that way, or is it still the same?
So it's great because, like I don't get out of the house a lot now, right? Because we're locked down. So it's a reason to get out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
It's a reason to see people that aren't 10, 7, 4 years old, or my wife, right? Which I love them. I wouldn't want to be locked down with anybody else, but it's also great seeing other human beings not on a Zoom call, like in the flesh. So there's another benefit of it. But also I think it shows our listeners and quote unquote fans that we're dedicated to the show.
Right.
Even during this thing, that we're getting it done, and we're going out there and we're trying to, even if it's for a couple hundred people, an hour a week, we're giving them a little respite from the monotony of dealing with what they're dealing with.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. I appreciate that, because you guys are doing it for you, but you're also doing it for them at the same time. Like it's a lot of balancing.
Right. Yeah. So we're doing it for us first.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so, and yeah. But I always want people to enjoy it, but they have to enjoy what I'm doing.
Right.
Right. Like that Don Rickles thing. Like, like I want people to enjoy it. I want to do the best that I can do, but I don't want to compromise what I'm doing.
Yeah. Because compromising can screw everything up as a creative person. Like it's just getting in
and
your way.
Especially like if I'm going to compromise a podcast that gets 20,000 downloads a year, like what am I compromising it for?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Like I could see if you were telling me Joe Rogan makes compromises. Well, you know what, man, he's got there's a lot of revenue attached to what Joe Rogan does. So maybe you can understand why he would make some compromises. But at this point, nobody's flashed enough cash in my face to make me compromise what I do.
Yeah, I hear that. It's all up to the individual and what you're trying to do. I mean, and I really appreciate that, the compromising thing. I forget the other word I had for that, but just being yourself, so to speak, like just doing what you want to do. Like you're doing it for your enjoyment, and if people like your shit, they'll like your shit because you're doing cool and dope shit. That's what
right. And they're luck. It's like when you overhear a cool conversation at a restaurant, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like that's like at the end of the day, that's what people are getting, right? They're getting a cool conversation that they would have never gotten if they didn't listen.
Right. And that's a funny way of looking at it too, because that's what podcasting is all about. You get to listen to people's conversations that without the awkwardness of that you're sitting there fucking listening to someone's hour to 2 hour conversation or whatever. Like you're still sitting there listening to them. Now you're fucking weird. What are you doing there?
Yeah. Why are you eavesdropping? But no, it's great. It's great. And like I said, it's, Tim and I have been friends. I've cornered Tim for just about every single one of his MMA fights. I've seen him grow as a person. Not that I'm like that much older than him, maybe like 6 or 7 years, but I've been there for a lot of the big things in his life. And I mean, it's just great to be able to do it with somebody that you appreciate doing stuff with.
Right.
So.
You practically grew up with him, right? Because you guys trained together at what's it called?
Yeah, I was already there a little bit, like I met Tim. I actually met Tim before he started training jiu-jitsu at Maxercise. I met him at a judo club that I went to go train at one time. But yeah, we've been friends for a very long time.
Yeah, and that's what brings you guys the chemistry together to the show. Um, it's funny in the beginning though. You were, you still do it a little bit, but you were like heavy on attacking him, not in a bad way, like a more of a comical way that I found hilarious every time. And now you kind of like settled down on it. But I'm like, damn, I miss him fucking with Tim. And you guys still do it with Tim, whatever. You and Devin together, it looks like.
Yeah, so like it's always natural. Like so
Yeah,
if I go at him, it's
yeah,
because I feel like I need to go at him,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I know also there were some times where it got heated,
Right. Oh,
right?
yeah,
But it never affected the relationship or the friendship. But if I felt like I needed to go at him again, I would. But we've also grown, like we've learned what we're comfortable doing,
right.
right? And what we're comfortable talking about. And we haven't touched the subject and I think it's before was way more dramatic, right? Like
Mhm.
the disagreements. Now they're way more subtle.
Yeah. And you guys found your balance throughout. Just keep doing the show consistently. This is teaching people, whoever's listening, for my last week. It was just funny we're doing this because last week, me and my training partner from Balance, he was asking me about how to podcast. Like, so we kind of like went through a guide of podcasting, so to speak. Because this is episode 41,
Nice.
and again, I've learned a lot from this. I've started last year in April, and I've been doing it by myself and with other guests, and I've also been doing another podcast separate from this with my wife. So I have all these different experiences with learning, and he's asking me all these questions about podcasts. I'm like, damn, I know all this shit about podcasts. That's crazy. It's only been a year, and I still have to learn so much because I haven't learned about the marketing of it, and I honestly I learned a little bit, but I'm like, I'm not trying to go far as to what you mentioned, compromising my show or what I'm trying to do for the sake of reaching out to more listeners. I have to sit here and listen to these other people. I follow a group too, by the way. I post my shit through Anchor, so
Okay.
it's a free whatever. They do a lot of work for you.
Yeah.
Um,
I know Anchor.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know about that. All right. So I follow their group, and same thing you see in your group. I see the same shit, but I often see people worry about shit like, oh, no one is listening to me, and what should I do? It's like, and I always just say the same shit. Just keep releasing. What is your purpose of releasing a podcast? Just if you have a point and your purpose, that's all that matters. Why do you care about how many listeners you have? If you really care about that because you're trying to make money, I don't know anything about that. So, but all I can say is I feel like you're driving yourself down a hole of like making yourself depressed over something that could be fun if you look at it with a different perspective. Um, I lost my
Right.
train of thought. You get what I'm saying though? I'm just trying to point out how
No, but
like
yeah, no, for sure. And like a lot of people want to do a podcast because they want to, like so they want to do a podcast because they think it's fun, and it is. They want to do a podcast because they want people to listen. But then when they realize that, oh man, like I'm not getting the listeners that I thought I would get, like they don't feel validated.
yeah,
They're like, well, why am I doing this? It's like, well, if it was to be Joe Rogan, sorry, bro, there's only one Joe Rogan.
mm,
It's like people that get into basketball. There's only one Michael Jordan. There's only one LeBron James, right?
mm-hmm,
Like you're doing this because you really enjoy doing it. Like you said, you do it for one person, you do it for 1,000 people.
mm-hmm,
Doesn't matter. For us right now, like if I were to look at the numbers, like, well, since the COVID, the lockdown started, like, yeah, our numbers are down. Well, we're still putting shows out. Like, I don't care that our numbers are down. I know they'll come back. And even if they don't come back up, the
right,
show will still get put out.
right,
Right. Like, at some point, more people will listen or less people will listen. As long as I'm having fun doing it, that's all I care about.
right. In terms of your, 'cause I wanted to talk about your school. I wrote a couple things down just so I can cover some things that I wanted to ask you in terms of you running a martial arts school. You brought
Go
up
ahead.
COVID-19. You don't have to answer these questions, but it's just based on, you manage a business, of course, and now it's affecting you, of course. And are you gonna open up soon? By the way, I was just curious.
I mean, I'm not in control of that,
Yeah.
right? Like
Oh, okay.
unfortunately, the government dictates if I can open, right? Like if you were to ask me, hey, if would I be open now if I could? Yes, I would be,
Okay.
right? So like I would have been open a month ago, but the way the lockdown works, and we're respecting what the government is asking us to do. So yeah, we're not open, and when the government gives me the okay, I'll be open.
And financially, they got you covered pretty much with the, I don't know, how, the small business pro stimulus and
Yeah,
all
so
that.
I don't want to get into
You don't have to talk about that. I'm just
that.
hold on.
I can't even get into all that right now.
No, that's fine. I was just curious, because I don't know how it's affecting. I felt bad once I heard about these small businesses. I was like, damn, dog. That's like the one thing I feel bad about is these people that are actually dying from it, and the people that are that run a business and now their lives are changing because of it. Um, but other than that, all these other people who are complaining about staying at home and because they're seeing things differently, I kind of, it's like I'm trying. I find myself falling into this thing of wanting to try to show them something that they're probably not seeing and no one's listening. So it's like it's frustrating. But
Right.
then I remind myself that why am I worrying about people that don't want to listen or don't care to change their perspective because they're so distracted. There's a lot that I've learned about the this last episode, a couple
Right. So
episodes.
like a small business owner, right now is complaining about being closed because this is their livelihood, right? Most small business owners would probably tell you they would risk getting COVID if it meant being able to open their business and be able to keep their business going and open, right? They
Yeah,
would risk getting this illness because this is something they've built over a lifetime. And I would do the same if somebody said to me, "Hey, Marco, you could open, but you'd risk getting COVID, but you'd still have a successful martial arts school." Then I'd be at my school tomorrow, right?
right, right.
So, what a lot of people that don't have a small business are complaining about is the inconvenience,
Mm,
right? Like they can't see their friends. Yeah, that sucks. I get it.
mm,
Oh, I can't go out to a restaurant. Yeah, that sucks. I get it. Right. But a small business owner whose family relies on the livelihood that the small business owner provides, these are very scary times because regardless of the loans and the help that the government can give, man, it doesn't mean that we're going to have an industry when this is over.
right. Yeah, that's where I'm like, fuck, man. That's what I think about the most out of this experience, other than I'm okay, I'm taken care of in terms of financially. Like, what about these other people, like the jiu-jitsu
Right.
schools that
It
are
looks like your walls are made of leather. You're so rich.
those are just my jiu-jitsu mats. That's another ghetto thing of mine, a little personal taste from the show that I just kept doing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because my behind is just white walls, and like yours is, I don't like the blandness of it, so just want to add a little
Right.
spice.
But what you don't have that right there. You see that?
Oh, the key to, oh, okay, the key to the city.
Hey,
Is that what you mean when you always say that? I think you said that a couple times on your show.
so that was one of my students' daughters made that for me.
Yeah,
Her father almost died of a heart attack at my school.
yeah,
And if not for convincing his wife that we needed to call 911, he probably would have died of the heart attack.
right.
So on the Ninja Rob podcast, I said, yeah, I got a key to the town. And around Christmas, the family dropped that off to me as a
Oh,
yeah, I thought it was pretty funny.
that's hilarious. Cause
Yeah.
I didn't get it. I was like, he got the key to the city, huh? And I was like, I guess this is a joke. I don't get it because I don't know what he's talking about. But now I get it. Now that's funny.
Yeah.
That's a crazy story too. By the way, you doing that.
Yeah.
Um, the situations that happen in jiu-jitsu schools. Do you have a lot of those experiences where things like that happen and you have to make a big decision that can affect someone's life?
So not from that drastic of a life or death situation, right? That was the one time where somebody had something going on that if we didn't act quickly, they probably would have died, right? Most other times it was an orthopedic injury that are terrible, but
Right.
not life threatening. Right.
Right.
So, and we always acted quickly, but it didn't have the same, like, guy breaks his leg. Okay. It's a cast or it's surgery. It's some, rods or whatever. I did have, oddly enough, a student have a devastating, and this is a long time ago, about like 15 years ago, devastating broken leg, like bad, almost sticking out. Like if it was like, it was probably a millimeter or two from sticking out of his leg,
Wow.
the bone. And we get him to the hospital. I got to sit on top of him so he doesn't sit up. And, like he's going through shock. And at a certain point, it's almost like he's not in any pain.
Right.
Get him to the hospital. Ambulance comes and I go see him in the hospital in the emergency room. And he goes, Marco, say hi to my mom.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Are you still there?
Yeah, no, don't worry, bro. I got 3 kids and like, that's the least of my concerns. So
Yeah. I have my way of doing it is she's sleeping, and when she wakes up, it's a good thing my child knows how to run the PS4, and then she'll get on PS4 and play games and does random
nice.
crap. But the remote ran out of battery, so that's why she grabbed the little doll or whatever. But anyway,
No worries.
yeah, that pretty much covers up everything that we talked about, man. I appreciate you being
All right,
on
man.
the show.
Awesome. Yeah. No problem. And let me know when it comes out. So I don't know if you make any kind of like graphics and stuff, but I'll share it on all my social media and get it pumped out there. And then what we could do is if you, I don't know how Anchor works. Do you own all of your episodes? Like,
So
you do? Okay.
long story short, I do own them. I can move them if I wanted to, if I want to
All
change
right.
services. Yeah.
So, like, if you have an episode that you think is like an awesome episode, like, I'll just be honest, like, I've never listened just because I don't
That's
listen
fine.
to podcasts.
Oh, I'm
Right?
never offended by that. Yeah, it's fine. I get it.
But if you have an episode that you're like, man, I really think I killed it on this episode, and like maybe like a month or 2 or whatever, we could release it on the Ninja Rob platform.
Okay.
Right. So that we could get maybe some people that, because it would be pretty natural for some of our listeners to want to listen to a podcast like yours, since you're kind of, like there's some overlap. We did it with the Andocast too, where we released one of his episodes on our platform to our people. And, I think his episode got like 200 listens on our platform. So,
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. I have a couple episodes in mind that I can send you that you could check out. One of them is particular with Eddie Abisola. That was the way he was speaking. He pretty much did a lot of the stuff. The whole point of the show, so to speak, was to talk mainly about philosophy and
okay.
the way we went over things. And this episode too is really helpful, but of course, it's all depending on what you prefer.
Yeah. So that would be cool because like my fans hear me all the time. Right. So if you think that episode with Eddie Abisola is really good,
yeah,
then we'll put that one out so that then, because it helps us to get new stuff out to our people.
Right.
It's not always just Tim and I, right? It's like, oh, here's a friend of the show. Check his show out.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
I gave you guys a shout out on my show a couple times.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I try to give, how I always share your shit on my Instagram. I try my best to help other people get their shit out, of course. Fighters, doesn't matter. Yeah, podcasters. I only know you guys as a podcaster that I actually listen to, that I enjoy. So I try to share your stuff too.
Awesome, man.
Yeah,
thank you. Yeah, so let me know when this comes out. I'll pump it up. Do you put like graphics out, or do you
kinda... Yeah. I try to do when I'm actually on my shit, I edit clips of the show. So I'll take stuff that you said that was like so meaningful that I needed to put it out there, and it gives you the what do you call it? I'm looking for. People will look at you. Oh man, this guy's cool. I'm gonna follow him. That type of shit. I'm advertising for you.
Yeah.
Talking about anything that I can do
That's
to
awesome.
promote you. I'm trying to put out there that you bring to the show. But I do graphics and stuff like that. So yeah,
I appreciate it, man.
I'll let you know.
Awesome. Yo, thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Again, he does the Ninja Rob podcast. Check him out on that. Him and Tim do a really fantastic job. Devin
More
does
importantly,
as well.
I do cool and dope shit.
All right.
And so should you.
And he's also the owner of New Jersey Martial Arts. So
Yep.
if you're in Jersey, what part of the
Maple
city?
Shade.
Maple Shade. If you're around Maple Shade area and you're listening and you haven't heard of his martial arts studio, definitely go there and check it out when things, of course, is open.
When the powers that be let us be open.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right. Appreciate you, man.
All right. Be well. Take care.
All right. Take it easy. I hope you fucks enjoyed this episode. Marco brought a lot to the table here, and I appreciate him for being on the show. If you want to follow him on Instagram, he has 2 separate accounts you can follow. One is Team NJMA. That is his school, of course. And the other one is Ninja Rob Podcast, which is the podcast itself. So definitely check those Instagram accounts out. I don't have his Facebook and Twitter and all that. All I have is these 2, and those are the main ones that I believe he cares about. I'm pretty sure he cares about other ones too. But anyway, so yeah, if you want to follow more of him, go check them out. If you haven't followed me already, I have social media all over the place, and you can catch me on Facebook, William Knows Nothing. You can catch me on Twitter, William Knows Nothing. You know the fucking drill. I try to be all over the place. I'm posting my shit everywhere as much as I can so that this shit can go out there. And yeah, if you want to be a part of the show, definitely feel free to send me an email with podcast guests as the heading. Give me your name. What do you do? What are you trying to bring to the show? Because I mainly just like to talk about philosophy and everything that you often see on the show. And we can have a discussion about whatever. I'm more than willing to talk about a lot of shit as long as it relies around philosophy and helping other people see perspective. So yeah, if you're looking forward to that, please send me an email at williamknowsnothing@gmail.com. I don't care. Again, I don't care who you are as long as you can communicate. When I say you can communicate, I mean you are able to listen and you are able to respond. And likewise, I should be able to do the same thing because I'm still working on my own communication because I suck too sometimes. But anyway, yeah, guys, thank you for listening. I appreciate you guys. Till next time, value life, value time.